Well, Lewanika, what do you do on a Friday night when you hear that Ginny D and Pointy Hat have thrown out a challenge for underwater-related content?
Well, Joshua, we release the Kraken!
Nice. Joshua, that's very cute. You haven't called me Joshua in a long time.
I'm usually not that angry at you, but if I'm releasing the Kraken, I gotta put some stank on it.
somewhere, my mom just shot up out of a dead sleep and started looking for her shoes. So it does,
she knows you did something wrong today.
I'm sure. I'm sure I did many things wrong today. So,
but one of those things is not check out the internet and see some cool things that are going on. Like we just came across it, and this is so very cool.
Right. So for people out there who are not aware, basically there is a chat going on about, or not a chat going on, but basically a list or a group or people of content creators getting together to release underwater themed content. It's a call that was put out by Ginny D, and we figured, you know what the hell? Like, why not? Let's go ahead and.
It fits with a lot of the things that we have been working on. I mean, we've got the faction for the Ivory Compass coming up, which is going to have a lot of seafaring, water-based things. I'm a huge fan of the Ghost of Salt Marsh, and I love aquatic-themed things. I mean, in Alanis years ago, I built many kits and whatnot for the Navy and the Marines of the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines for the units there, and I have a ton of fun with the nautical concept. So I'm even wearing my shirt that I bought when I was in the Dominican Republic.
I am rocking my "Don't hate the flare, hate the game" T-shirt.
Very nice.
They are squid-headed monstrosities, but not necessarily
not the underwater type yet.
Well, exactly. I mean, so therein lies the premise, right? So being content folks like you and I are, we were talking, well, what would we do if we had this challenge? And we have in our unused stuff folder, and I pulled them up here on kind of other tabs in the Google Doc that I'm currently sharing. We have some sea-related creatures that have ideas that have popped up that have made it into our Google Drive that we could certainly go through. But we figure, and basically my thought was like a 3-chapter adventure, something compelling and something interesting that we could piece together, and then in a little bit of time here, after we get this chance to go ahead and stitch it together, throw it up on DM's Guild and see what happens there. But basically include this video as the formation process, so to speak. And to go ahead and use it as a companion to some of our other stuff. I figure, some other ideas about what we might want to go ahead and do with this. So
absolutely,
So
I'm ready to dive in.
Yeah, I like it. So maybe let's start kind of talking about the creatures. Let's start there, and then let's start filling out kind of like a timeline progression chart of what we think this can be. Sure. I've got an empty document here. We generally, for our content creation, we generally go by project names just because it makes us feel all secretive and important when we do that. And so naturally, I called this one Project Kraken for the Kraken Week 2024. And I've got a Google Doc, empty Google Doc here. I've got an empty drawing document, so we can go ahead and build some stuff in there, and then I have some other ideas if we want to go ahead and use maps and stuff like that. So
excellent.
Let's go ahead and let's get started here. So the first one that I found here, and this is one that you had thrown in there, was about giant archerfish.
Yes.
Raised and ridden by Triton warriors and underseas. I see you have a bunch of information in here on a variety of different sizes. What do you think is kind of the hallmark of these guys? Like, what's the thing that really makes them sing for you?
So what really makes archerfish sing is the fact that they spit water and tag targets with almost unerring precision. They in real life, archerfish are fairly small and they eat insects and such. And so what they do is they'll swim around the top layer of the water and right near the edges of the banks where trees and fauna or flora rather kind of hang over the banks. Insects will land on them, sunning themselves, and these fish will get under them from basically cover and spit water through, breaking the surface, hit the insects, almost paralyzing them, knocking them into the water, and swallow them whole.
I like it.
They are amazing. I should actually say I do want to give a quick shout out to Odd Danny on Facebook Reels. I have been a fan of his things for a while, and a lot of my undersea real world sciencey biology fish type stuff I've been getting from him. Like, I'll watch his reels when I'm doom scrolling at 1 a.m, and I'm like, jot that down, save that link. That'll make a good creature. Archerfish was one of the ones that really got me going, because then I thought, well, how do we zhuzh this up? And I thought, make them bigger, and 2, make them mounts for an underwater species. So one of the species I haven't played a lot in 5e was the Triton. I love the concept, but I just haven't been in enough games near the water's edge to make that usable. Even as a GM, I've only used them maybe 2 times, 3 times tops. And I want to get more.
One of us played a Triton in one of our class warfares. That somehow seems familiar. It might have been me.
I think that is probably close to
Don't ask me which one.
In fact, listeners, if you happen to know the answer to that and you let us know, we'll do something. Well, I don't know. We'll get you some cool dice or something.
Get your free copy of the PDF of the adventure or something like that. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But you let us know. You find it. You let us know. So first of all, that's awesome. I love the concept that you've got going here. A couple of thoughts that I want to go ahead and make. So first, I think that real quick, we need to swallow a prone incapacitate as a bonus action. Incapacitated creature of its size or smaller.
Absolutely.
Right, because that's going to be you can't have them they can't
there's no way an Archerfish is swallowing a kaiju if the kaiju is bigger.
Right, exactly, right. So the juveniles, they're medium sized, they can't swallow large creatures, but the large ones can. And so I think that's pretty cool. I like the ranged attack. I think it should do more damage.
So
I just think it should do more damage. How would this fit? Do we know how this would size out CR wise?
I don't. I have not done the CR calculation. I really just focused on getting the concept down when I was working on this, and I thought I'd start with D4 because then I'd be scaling up, and both in range and in damage. And in number of attacks. But what I wasn't sure is what was a good start point. So that's more of a placeholder damage, and then we can kind of see where we go. Generally, when I'm building creatures or when I'm building adventures, one of 2 things happens. I am either building something, and then when I'm done, I calculate what CR it is, and then I set the level for the adventure. Or if if we're hired freelance, like for Splinterverse, when they hired us, they gave us a blueprint. Please write your adventure for this range. So in that case, we had to do it kind of backwards. We had to start with the CR and work backwards. But I do find building what's cool first, then setting the CR is much more freeing on a creative level.
Yeah, for sure. And for folks out there kind of watching, this is very much kind of how we will workshop stuff like this. These are not complete stat blocks. They're really just more just notes, and we're kind of filling it out as we go along here. And
that's why there's blanks for the damage, because we don't have the actual stats yet. That'll come later on as well. But this is about, do we like the powers, the abilities, the special features? Does that hit the mark for us? And if so, then we'll keep this and we'll tidy up the other bits as we complete the adventure, because we may have to scale up or scale down based on this, depending on what else the adventure is and where this will fit in.
Here's my one thing also. So again, I'm just kind of looking through here and just kind of dancing around the edges a little bit of it. I love the water jet attack. I think that's great. I love the fact it's got recharge. That's awesome. My one thing is that knocking creatures prone if they're underwater is going to make them drown. That's
harsh, and I think that's
harsh.
That's where the CR is really going to come in. So, a couple things: the Archerfish don't spit water at creatures in the water; they spit water at the creatures above it. So, maybe the caveat is if you're above the water, like you're out of the water and they hit you, that will knock you prone. Because the idea is you're near the water, you fall, and then you fall into the water and they get you. If you're already in the water, I imagine maybe it doesn't do the knock prone at all. It just does the damage.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good way to flavor that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm wondering if stunned for 1 round would be better than prone.
So
because again, if you're, I mean, here's the So what's the rule on prone? Let's.
So maybe in the water you're stunned, but if you're in the air, you're knocked prone. Because the idea, like I said, is in real world, they are knocking a creature. They fall down off of whatever they are. So if you're knocked prone and you're up in a branch or you're right over the water, you're falling in the water. Yeah. That's the goal. Unless it's stun and push, and then that would actually cover the same ground without making them prone.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like stunned and pushed. Right.
Okay.
So if we're rather than prone, and stunned is maybe a harsher condition because it basically incapacitates them.
Yeah.
But I think if we say that they're only stunned for 1 round, basically they miss their next round.
Or how about they're stunned until the start of the Archerfish's next turn? That way, depending on where that character is in round order, they may get the opportunity to act.
So that's why I was thinking like stunned until the end of their next turn, as opposed to the beginning of the Archerfishes, right? So let's just put numbers on it, right? Archerfish goes on initiative 15. I go on initiative 10.
Yeah.
After initiative 10, I'm no longer stunned, so now I can use my reaction when the Archerfish... I guess actually there's probably a distinction without a difference, unless there are other bad guys other than the Archerfish that are going on other initiatives, right? Because after I'm no longer stunned, I can now use my reactions, as opposed to having to wait until the Archerfish's next turn where anything can hit me. Okay. And I can't even respond, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's true. That's fair.
You know what I mean? So that's
I like that. I'm down with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna.
And I
think
that would actually make it bring down that CR a little bit, so it gets more in the sweet spot.
Yeah. Or stunned until end of
targets
your next until target's next turn. Thank you. Yeah. Just to make sure. Target's next turn.
For those who have not been in the content creation bit, one of the things that we will strive to do, though it will not be perfect in this initial creation phase, is utilize the 5e parlance style guide type information. So we're trying to use the same turn so it matches. That is likely to change with 2024. And if and when we decide to update anything we're doing under the current rules to those rule sets, we'll make those changes in those later publications.
Yeah. And then, I'm just going to say use water jet ability. So basically they can use it anytime. I would say maybe 2 per round.
Okay.
And then so just to kind of clarify again some things to clean up here. So the juvenile gets the attack, but doesn't, and it can push it 5 feet away from the creature, right? Because if it's a water jet, you can't push it towards you, right?
Yeah, you can't pull it.
Right, you can't pull it. You can only push it. So it's going to be 5 feet away from the creature. Yep. And basically, that's just, if you think about the 8 squares that are around a target, it eliminates one of them, basically.
So you can push it to the left, to the right, to the near left, near right, far left, far right, and straight ahead. You just can't pull it towards you, but it's 5 feet.
Yeah, exactly. And then push 5 feet in any direction away from the creature, or stunned until the end of the target's next turn. And then on a success on the save, it's half damage and no push and no conditions.
Yes.
And then for the legendary one, push 5 feet in any direction away from the creature and stunned until the end of the target's next turn. So it's both.
Yep.
I think that if they succeed on the saving throw, it still has to be no push and no conditions, because they've succeeded on the saving throw. I don't think that we can go ahead and apply a condition if they succeed.
Because it has the legendary actions and it can effectively do it a second time, I have no problem.
It can do it 3 times.
Yeah, I have no problem with that concession. Yep. And I'm actually picturing the legendary being ridden by a Sea King, or even
I mean, they're huge size, so
or
that's great.
Maybe even a water genie of some kind, which would be freaking awesome.
Yeah. So let's see here. The sea isopods. What do you got here? What it looks like? What do you got here?
So
any idea?
This
do you remember what these are?
This was
not a lot of information.
Yeah,
here,
there's not a ton on this. If I recall correctly, they were not very aggressive. But it was But it was more like I pictured them more like either something that druids or enemies might have as kept pets that they basically trained to do something. I think we kick this one to the curb.
Take this one out for now.
Yeah, let's move on from that one. I don't have enough on that.
All right. What do you got for the frill shark? What do you got these?
So the frill shark is basically a very old type of shark.
Yeah.
Obviously, the color's listed here, deep brown. The eyes actually glow. They have, so I thought, superior dark vision. A lot of deep underwater creatures will probably have some form of dark vision, but I like superior dark vision. And I believe...
What's the difference between superior dark vision and dark vision?
That's a real world terminology. I think the idea is dark vision, and then you tell it the number of feet.
So 60 feet.
Yeah. But apparently they have their gills are really red. They look like bloody and mean. They have trident shaped serrated teeth. It's like the scariest thing in the world. Like, these things are little, and they have 300 of them, and 25 rows of these teeth, and they look more like eel type things as far as the way they look. They're about, the real world ones are like 2 meters long. They're so old, like I said, practically a living fossil. But if I recall correctly, these are the ones that their teeth are actually set up as opposed to like in a mouth, like around the top and bottom of the mouth. It's actually set up like on a roller kind of thing. So their teeth are like on rollers that go up and down and curl in like this. It's like,
all right, that's funky and cool.
It's really creepy looking when you see glowing eyes come out of the dark and then teeth are doing this at you.
Yeah. Okay. And they're 2 meters long, so we'd want to go ahead and make them bigger.
Yeah, we definitely would want to do.
That's basically medium size. Yeah. So, or I guess it's large. I guess 2 meters is technically large.
Yeah. So we could. I mean, we could start large, but obviously we're fantasying this up. So we're gonna want to go at least a size category larger for the main type of creature. And these things, they're sharks. You know, they
eat things. Yeah.
They eat things.
So yeah. And so, okay, all right. So I think this is something that we can go ahead and take this and make another kind of creature stat block for this one. That's pretty cool. Yep. I like that. And then, so the giant Landak. So this is one that we had worked on. And you see, I actually have like a full-fledged like stat block image for this one. But you and I had worked on this one. This is a creature that I used at my table. Basically, they were river dwellers because they were crossing a river. But basically, it was an exploration tier kind of adventure. They were going from point A to point B. They had to cross a river. I wanted big, bad, scary things that could come out of the river. And basically, the key to them is that they can jump 10 feet out of the water and attack you. And they have an acidic bite. So if they get you, you're screwed. You're hurting in a for real way. The other thing is that they have the blood frenzy ability, right? So if something gets in the water that doesn't have its maximum number of hit points, the giant Landak gains additional speed and hit points.
Nice.
So they're kind of fun. They're kind of fun like that. And then also too that like I thought that I put it on the spreadsheet on the sheet here, but maybe not because but they also have like the ability to if you are in the water and you are not at full hit points, that it can basically summon other ones. Basically
call for a swarm
infinitely. Yeah, call for a swarm, basically, right? So again, kind of cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything here that we would want to change.
I really liked what we had come up with for that. So I mean, I was definitely something that I thought was useful and cool.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with that swarming. But I think we'd want to add that swarming ability, kind of along with Blood Frenzy there. But yeah, that's basically the concept. These are like a swarm. Yeah, a carnivorous deadly fish thing that you don't want to encounter in numbers. Basically what the title is I put on the creature. So okay.
Yeah, so before we go on, this afternoon after we decided we were going to do something for Kraken Week, I had actually brought up some other stuff that didn't get to our normal thing. I basically was kind of doing some stuff on the side. I just sent it to you.
Yeah.
So these are all new creatures that I have not talked to you about. So this is in the raw. I put it right through our Facebook IM, so you can grab the text and drop it on a doc.
Let me drop it on a doc here. All right.
And I believe I've got...
Is this all one thing?
It is all one thing, and I believe I have 1, 2...
I mean, like, is it all one creature?
No, it's three separate creatures.
3 creatures. Okay,
and a couple of them are almost creature/trappish, which I thought would work really nice for what we were doing for an adventure concept. Whereas most of the other ones we talked about were straight up creatures, like they do things, right? They're active, they're out and about, they're moving. I thought that going into an area, approaching an undersea thing, or having to wade through a shallower part of the seawater, having to deal with these kinds of things would be really, 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 really creepy.
All right, cool. So talk to me. So you've got Cuttlefish.
I've got the Cuttlefish. Now, Odd Danny actually described them as practically aliens. These creatures have 3 separate hearts. They have the ability to instantaneously change their color, their shape, and their texture to match other creatures, other environments. They can look like rocks. They can look like flora. They can look like the dirt or the the sea floor. They can look like other creatures. Like, these things have actually made themselves look like octopus so they could go catch octopus. Like, nice. These are frightening, these are cool. Frightening, and they can change in an instant, but they have some really, really neat and scary abilities. So with the Cuttlefish, in addition to the fact that their camouflage is better than you can ever imagine, so we need to kind of think about definitely giving it those ambush predator vibes, sneak, all those types of abilities, maybe advantage on camouflage, that type of thing. But it also has the ability to change its color scheme so quickly, it creates a hypnotic effect. And one of the things I didn't think we'd see with any of the creatures we had was really the ability to get this kind of condition. Like, if you are basically hypnotizing the people you have out there, charming them in some fashion into standing still, you could actually cause the target to be incapacitated while they're gazed and mesmerized. And it's at that point that these things get really nasty, because they have hidden tentacles that are in their heads that literally you can't see them when they're not using them. When they mesmerize prey, then these huge tentacles jump out of their face, strike with venom the target, and paralyze it so they can then consume the target.
So basically, you're saying they'd be able to get the charm. They'd be able to impose the charmed condition. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yep.
Okay, I like it.
And it would stand to reason that this is really, really that these are. I could almost see like sea elves, kind of, because they're immune to charm. What a great guard dog for your areas, right? If you're immune to its most potent ability, or at least, I guess they're not immune; they're resistant. So that could actually be a challenge for them at lower levels. So yeah,
I thought elves were immune to charm.
I think we need to look that up. I always forget. Different editions do different things. So let's see.
Let's see.
Edif.
Advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep.
Yep. So they are resistant to it. Effectively, they get an advantage on the roll. So this could actually be dangerous to even the sea elves. This could be a pretty
that's fine. Like that's something the sea elves would totally do, honestly.
Yeah.
All right.
So
all right, I like it. So let's hang on to that. Yeah.
Then I have the
giant sea cucumbers. Yeah.
So these are also weird creatures. I did not realize sea cucumbers were poisonous. I was very frightened, and I have reinforced my "I don't swim with critters" rules as a result of this research.
Yeah.
First of all, if you squeeze a sea cucumber and all the stuff that spits out of it, that's its actual insides. And its insides are toxic. And so,
well, that's what happens with most creatures. If you squeeze them tight enough and the stuff that comes out, that's their insides.
Yes, but in this case, it does that on purpose. That's actually how they snag their prey. They spit out their insides, and it paralyzes their prey, and then they consume it. Which is a whole...
That's pretty cool.
That's a whole different level of ew... and scare and gross. I really like that, and just because of the way the pictures work, I was thinking
there's something about that's got to be a line attack though. We can't make that a cone attack. Like,
when I saw how it looked, because they actually showed a couple of them doing it, actually splayed out its innards like in a cone effect. Now I was thinking you can shorten the cone because I don't know how long the innards are going to be initially, but I thought 15 feet worked, but
gross.
I mean it's kind of like I got cucumber innards on me. That's a spicy pickle. So but
that's so gross. It's so awful.
Yeah. So, with these things, it's a paralytic. So we're looking at incapacitation, if successful. But what I thought was I didn't want to do it instantly. I thought that might be too much. Too many of these creatures would be too high CR. So I thought the first successful hit, like fail the con save the first time, you are going to be slowed in some fashion. And we can figure out how we want to word that and what rules we would use. There's not a slowed condition in 5e.
There isn't a slowed condition. What does the slow spell do?
I believe it just reduces movement. So I think that's really the key. Half movement.
You think the slow spell reduces movement? Is that
if I'm hazarding a guess.
Yeah. Affects target speed is halved and it takes a -2 penalty to AC and dexterity saving throws.
Yep.
So that's slowed, i.e. the slow spell.
Yep. And then on the second failed con save, they would definitely be incapacitated. I think.
You think only incapacitated, or you think?
So I don't,
because it's a paralytic, right?
It is a paralytic, but I don't know which. I don't know if which one is harsher.
Paralyzed. Let's see. Paralyzed creatures incapacitated, fails strength and dexterity saving throws. Attack rolls against it have advantage. And any attack which hits the creature is a critical.
Yep.
If the attacker is within 5 feet of the creature.
Yep. And I thought incapacitated was slightly less than that.
Yep,
and
I agree.
And I just thought that made more fun at the table.
And
that's
so the question about CR is an interesting one, right? Because we haven't decided kind of what the scope of this adventure is going to be yet. So it can be anything. Right? It can be anything that we want. The creatures right now, I think, without kind of doing all of the CR math directly, I think these are all feeling like this was a CR3, which I mean,
I'm thinking the 3 to 4 range is where I think many of them are landing, except for those giant or legendary, the real big and legendary ones. But when you start imposing paralyzing and incapacitation, I think that really ups the ante.
I agree. So if we're looking at monsters by CR, let's say 4. These are just the ones in the SRD. Nothing that really. These might impose conditions.
No, not Ettins. They're just two-headed giants.
I don't think any of these impose conditions. The black pudding, maybe. It's corrosive, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's acid damage.
No conditions there. What about the succubus?
She's got charm effects.
It's got the telepathic bond. It's got that charm bit. Yeah. Constitution saving throw against this magic. Psychic damage, but no. Oh, yeah, the charm right there. Yeah. All right, so they can successfully charm. So yes, and that's a CR4. So yeah, I think incapacitated is probably fine. Yeah,
I think
okay.
if we went
That makes
higher
sense.
than that, this has to be a lot. Now the thing is, sea cucumbers are not ridiculously mobile. I think their speed should be almost non-existent. Like we're talking
Like probably like 10.
five.
Honestly.
I was gonna say like 5.
5, yeah.
But a couple cool things about the sea cucumbers, which is they can liquefy and they just seep
cool,
into the ground and don't die. Once they've spit out their innards, they just kind of or whatever till they can grow themselves back. So basically, unless you full on destroy them in some fashion before they seep into the ground, I think we just need to list. It takes them 3 rounds to seep into the ground. I like giving it a con save because I think players should have some satisfaction of being able to end creatures. So. I figured give them a con save. Maybe 15's a little high. Maybe it should be a 12 or whatever. But I was thinking, after X number of rounds, they kind of seep into the ground. They can't attack. They're out of commission for about a month, and but they live on. So it's kind of like the trap that goes away and comes back.
Yeah. I'm gonna dip this one just because that's a lot. If we're keeping it to CR4, I'm gonna drop the bit about the blindness. Just because, again, that's one condition too many, I think.
Yep, fair enough.
So,
though in real life, they actually shoot for their target's eyes.
Sure, totally. And if this was going to be a CR6 or a CR8, yeah, sure. But, if we're aiming for 4, 5 feet per round. All right. And the giant... Do I want to ask what a bobbit worm is?
I really think when you see the picture of this thing in action, you're going to hate me with all of your guts. It's almost like a spider face on a poisonous segmented worm scaly body.
God, why do you do this to me? Okay.
And in real life, these things can be exceptionally long. But what they do is they burrow into the ground, so the only part that's above the sea floor is their mouth. So they kind of sit at the bottom of the sea floor like little mini mobile Cerelac pits. And their sensory perception, that's why I gave it tremor sense, but it's not just ground, it's actually the water above. They've got all kinds of sensory organs that can sense movement of water, pressure of water, and electromagnetics in the water above them. So they can sense when prey comes above, and they literally jump out of the water, grab their prey and try to bite it, and try with their big mandibles that kind of snap in half. It's almost like an insect mandible type thing that kind of snaps in on them, and it's got lots of little pointy, sharpy things that go along with that, and then kind of drags it back down. And if they get their prey, they are trying to latch onto it, and then they drop back in and drop into their burrow and bury it in the water, or bury it in the ground at the bottom of the ocean. Nice. And I thought these were, again, perfect trap type organisms in an undersea adventure. Give your players a little potion of water breathing so they can get to the inner fortress underwater or what have you. And this is one of the trapped areas. It's an actual creature, so it's not pick locks, but it's basically a trap. Like, you've got to fight through this encounter, which is mostly an amalgam of environmental and creature trapping.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue, I think. So we've got a bunch of creatures here. What do we want this adventure to look like? I like where you're going with the have to investigate some underwater palace for some reason, so let's take some notes here. So I think let's see. I want to we'll just do a bulleted list here. We'll do that. All right, so have to investigate an underwater fortress, palace, etc. I would think that if the party is getting potions of water breathing, that means to me that they have some sort of a patron, right? So this is kind of sounding like a heist mission, like you would find in Keys from the Golden Vault, which obviously I've been reading a lot lately. So everything kind of sounds like a heist mission. It's like
because it's loot.
When you're a carpenter and all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Exactly.
So that's.
So
I'm thinking,
patent pending. Lewanika loves him some drama between groups or factions of folks, right? So I really thought an idea is have two parties that are antagonistic or at odds, and I like the concept of having the Tritons and another underwater species, and I was thinking either the merfolk or sea elves, one or the other.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So you're thinking that within the... Gotcha. So you think that the party is hired by either the Tritons or the Sea Elves to go ahead and go after the other one.
Or to basically a race to get to this thing and get the MacGuffin before the other group. So if the party's hired by the Tritons, they will have to fight the Sea Elves. If they are hired by the Sea Elves, they're going to have to fight the Tritons. And I would say... I like the idea of not having the morality of one is evil, one is good. I like the idea they're just opposing factions.
They just both want the same thing.
They want the same thing.
So here's my question, though. Why would two seafaring races hire a party of non-seafaring folk to attack another seafaring race? That's the question that's coming to my mind.
So, one, I think they're not necessarily attacking them. I think they're fighting through them to get to the thing.
Okay, sure.
And two, whatever it is they're going after, it must require something that the two other factions are not. So there's something about the party that the party must be able to do that they cannot. Whether it's a cursed item to them that only surface dwellers can touch. Like it's the thing, like you have to remove this cursed item from the sea. They can't do it. So they've got to get somebody to get this cursed item out of the sea. But this item, one, if it's any kind of sentence, it wants to stay, or maybe whoever put it there wants it to stay. So you've got the two factions that are warring against each other to get they want the clout of getting this thing out, right?
I love it.
But the thing itself belongs to neither, and there's actually something else. So when they get there, now they've got a whole new thing that they have to deal with, and I think that's really the key. So I think we need to also develop our actual big bad, and the factions are just the complications to the adventure.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. I like the way you said that. Factions are just complications in the mission. There is actually a separate big bad. Are the factions aware of the big bad and not sharing this information, or are they not aware of it?
So I think that really depends. I think we should probably, as we build this out, I think it really depends on the party at the table. If you're a GM who's got a party that really digs into this stuff deep, I think we should have the information for that DM to get into that level. Like they actually know the information. The twist is they kind of know what's going on, or know who it is, or whatever, but they are not going to tell the party for whatever reason, because they're trying to get advantage, right? They don't want to divulge the information because they figure that'll cause them to back off if they tell them what's there.
Or maybe there's some reason why it's like some like underwater secret that they don't want to have surface dwell. Like I can see like both factions being like reticent to hire the party, right? They don't actually want to do this, but they feel like they have to because of the thing that they're trying to do. So they may not be willing to go ahead and reveal the secret of who the big bad is. Maybe the big bad is okay, so what would be a big bad that Sea Elves and Tritons and Merfolk would both view as important enough to, or as not integral to their society enough to go against, but I mean, actually, maybe it's just like some sort of like water deity. Maybe it's a deity of some sort.
I would think
Not at CR3 or 4 though. Like if we're talking like CR3 and 4, like that's not deity. That's not.
So
but like a powerful.
I would say it's an artifact of a oh yes, a powerful water warlock or what have you. And the idea is you have to remove him from the sea because that will separate his controlling power, right? Like if you get him out of the sea, then his power base is lessened. So the cult of whatever this unspoken power is gone. But whoever gets rid of that whoever's responsible for getting rid of that, they get the benefit from their own deities of having done so. So it's less about.
Oh no! Even better. Right. Even better.
Hit me.
So. Yes, removing the warlock breaks the connection between the warlock and its patron, and then it's kind of one of those things, once the seat is empty, somebody else can take it. So the Tritons and the merfolk both want the chair.
Ooh.
They both want control of wherever this environment is. Not the Tritons and the merfolk, the merfolk and the sea elves both want the chair. It's kind of like a Game of Thrones thing, right?
Yep.
But while the warlock is in the chair, neither of them can have it. So they're, in effect, sending the party after the MacGuffin, but the MacGuffin is really like some sort of, maybe he's like Pact of the Blade or Pact of the Amulet or something like that.
Or maybe it's an item that once it leaves the sea, he has some kind of immunity, like he can't be touched, or he's got some kind of, like the armies of the armies of the tribes cannot attack him while this object is there, right?
Yeah.
But outsiders can. So once that's removed, then they can invade, but only the group that caused it can do so.
Yeah, okay. All right. So that's the big bad of some variety.
Yep.
Item provides him immunity from other seafaring races. Species. The party is hired to remove the item. Honestly, that would probably be enough for the water warlock just to attack them, frankly. Like that's, but the party just isn't aware. They think that they're just getting hired to remove the item from the sea to break the curse, right?
Yeah. They have no idea what the curse is.
Break the curse. When they try to remove that item, which is giving the warlock immunity, the warlock attacks, and the warlock is not bound by maritime law and have to attack them underwater. It can also attack them like once they've left the sea or whatever like that. The warlock can attack them.
Go that's wherever. So if they don't defeat him, now you've got a plot seed for a future campaign.
Oh, yes, because the item is what allows the warlock to live under the water. He is not sea folk, and that's why they want him gone.
Excellent. Ooh, then the warlock should be a fire genasi.
Okay. Underwater, fire genasi.
And as long as that item is in his lair, then he can do all of his fire things.
He has control over.
He can do underwater fireballs. He can do all of his magics work 100%.
And that's why neither the Tritons nor the Sea Elves can attack them, is not because it's not that they can't do it, it's that if they enter his lair, like all of these other fish things that we've created, they fall under his spell. That's what the item does, is it allows him to control seafaring creatures.
There you go.
If they are within the range of plot. which is going to be very interesting if, depending on how the party assembles itself. But we're not going to go. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yep. This is the type of adventure.
That's just fun.
Yeah, this is the type of adventure that begs for a Tabletop Journeys collaborative world building table at the very beginning of the adventure, where you're going to give the party a series of options. We'll give the party a series of options to their connection to the shore communities that would normally trade with either the sea elves, or the Tritons.
Yep.
So I'm actually envisioning this be in a large bay of sorts, and there are dotted human civilizations along the edges of the bay, and and a delta, and kind of in the center of the bay, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about this as kind of like a follow-up mission to the mission that was in our most recent book, with the shambling hungers and like. I'm picturing as kind of like a follow-up to that, kind of thing. Maybe there's some sort of like eldritch thing that's going on there that's creating the situation that was going on, that kind of thing. So, all right. So let's see here. So I have to investigate the underwater fortress palace. Yep. So the patron is going to be either the Tritons or the Sea Elves. They can provide whatever they need to go ahead and breathe underwater, but they are specifically looking for parties of folks who are not seafaring creatures, and they're not being very forthcoming about why that is. They're just that's what they're we can create any sort of conceit as far as why they'd be doing that. So, but they have to remove what they're being told is that they have to remove some sort of a cursed item from the sea. But the Tritons and the Seals can't do it, and the Tritons and Seals know why they can't do it, but the party will not. The factions are just complications in the missions. There's really a separate big bad. That's the Warlock. The factions are aware of the big bad. Don't share the detail. It's a water warlock item. Just a warlock. We'll see what kind of warlock he ends up being. But the item provides him immunity from other seafaring races. It allows him to live underwater. He's a fire genasi. I'm just going to... There we go.
Yep.
That's why they want him gone. And the item... item allows him to control seafaring creatures if they're within the range of plot. And the party is hired to remove the item to break the curse. And so basically they have to remove that item from the sea, which... it will successfully remove the curse, I suppose, but that would just tick off the warlock. So, and maybe the artifact only works if it's in the sea, right?
Yeah.
Item.
Oh, I know. It turns brittle and is destroyed once it's in the air. Once it's out of the sea for X period of time, it actually turns brittle and is destroyed.
In the air. Okay.
And I would say open air, because just in the event that somebody's got a spell that creates a bubble of air or something crazy like that, that will not work.
Yeah, totally.
It's got to be above the surface of the ocean.
Yep. Although I can also see too that like a bubble air, if they created a bubble of air around it, maybe the item reacts in some way that suggests to the players what they would want to do.
Yep.
It's a way to plant the seed.
Sure.
Air bubble type spell would cause the artifact to react in some way.
I would say, instead of some way, I would say react in a way that indicates possible courses of action. That way, when we go back and
that's implied.
Fill in, that'll be there.
I mean, in all fairness, I mean, the Tritons and the Seals are saying, remove this thing from the water, it's poisoning our seas, you know. So, I mean, they're going to have the answer, even if, you know what I mean? So, like, but that would kind of, like, that would maybe give them a clue about what's going to happen if it removes it from the water or whatever like that, you know.
Sure.
Let's see, collaborative rule building table for connections to sea communities, especially the Tritons and the Sea Elves.
Yep. I almost like the fact that the Fire Genasi would be a Fathomless, or the underwater warlock. I played one.
Yep.
They were fantastic.
That's kind of what I was thinking about, actually, was that dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know the one I played, I specifically had him beholden to a dragon turtle. Was the
cool.
being that gave him power, and he actually never called it a dragon turtle. He always referred to it as the armored one.
Yep.
And I just thought that was kind of cool, and I could see a dragon kind of a dragon turtle or whatever, maybe trying to come back from its other realm, if we're going by Fizbins or whatever. Dragons kind of transcend dimension, and this layer is like basically the warlock is preparing the layer which will allow the dragon turtle to come through to this realm.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh, I love that. That's
so this is great. And
salty.
There's plenty to go ahead and work on here. So, how many? So we're thinking, if we're adventure, are we thinking? So we're thinking creatures are going to be around CR4.
Yep. For most encounters, yeah.
So that puts a party of 5. If you have a party of 5, that puts them like in the level like 4 to 6 range in that neighborhood.
Yeah, because I think if our creatures are around 4, we're probably gonna have a couple more, and then have some more minions. Like I could see like if they're battling it, let's say you are hired by the merfolk, so you're dealing with the Tritons, they're going to be on Archerfish, right? Which are the bigger ones, but not the giant ones, right? So they'll have those, and then they'll have the smaller ones, which kind of tag along with them, right?
Yeah, and I can see the Fire Genasi riding a giant anglerfish, though. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, so I think those would be good. And I like this, like the outside of the layer. I think the sea cucumbers makes for a good encounter directly outside the layer. So if we're constructing this, I think there's an encounter in what the town closest to where the party begins this, right? So there's an encounter in town where they're approached by a Triton or somebody on behalf of the merfolk, right? So maybe the merfolk has a spell, they transmute themselves, and they go to hire the party. They can meet, tavern or what have you, looking for help, or at the local docks where the fisheries are, that type of thing. And that's where they'll meet. Same thing with the Tritons.
Yep. I think, and one of the things that I like doing in kind of like a 3-phase adventure like this is giving them a test mission, right?
Yep.
Something that, because if the Triton or the Sea Elf is going to be like, hey, you're trying to go ahead and save our species, they're going to want to know that the party is worth their salt, right? So I think that there needs to be some sort of a starter mission to go ahead and be like, go off and do this thing, and then we'll talk. So let me let's see.
So if we go with the concept that the cuttlefish were
all kinds of waterfish, all sorts of they have to seal the deal, the little underwater pun there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If we go with the fact that the cuttlefish kind of are closer to what the elves would deal with, right? They're contained by the elves or what have you. It could be that the Tritons are saying, hey, look, people have gone missing from the village, but more importantly, we need some help. We think we know what it is. We know what's causing this, and we can point you in the right direction. But our elders don't really let us do things for surface dwellers, so we want you to do this. And so we'll give you the details. You go save the day, and if they deal with the Tritons, they basically can go and try to take out some of the merfolk and and their cuttlefish, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking whichever one they go to. So So I'm thinking that it's okay. Let me make sure that I understand what you're saying. So you're saying one or the other, based on storyteller discretion, approaches the party and says the other faction is using cuttlefish to go ahead and steal our people. Go take care of that for us.
Actually, I was thinking the Tritons would say the cuttlefish are stealing humans, and we'll direct you to where they are so you can go get them. We want to help, but our elders won't normally let us do that because it's surface dwellers, but we don't think it's right.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to try to play altruistic. And it's basically send them to hurt their enemies.
Yeah.
Similarly, if the elves are the one they go to...
Sorry, pause that for 1 second. Let me write this down. So pause, say that cuttlefish are stealing humans. Elders normally don't care, but the individual you are talking to doesn't. That it's right. And here's where they are.
And that should be a named NPC plus whatever his minions are.
Yep.
Right? And who would effectively be the Triton lieutenant, because it will be the Triton leader who will ride the biggest cuttlefish later on in the adventure.
Yep.
Right? And then on the other side, if they're dealing with the elves will be saying that, the missing fishermen that have been, the missing fishermen and the missing catches that have been happening, this is all this is all based on something that's scaring up these archerfish. We know where they are, but again, because of treaty, our elders won't let us interfere. But we think it's if the humans leave, it'll harm us also. So we're trying to get the humans to help. And in fact, the only humans that have ever gone missing are ones that each of the groups have hired that have been taken out by the other group.
Right. Yeah.
And that will also give some loot for when the parties win one challenge or the other. It'll be loot of past adventure parties. So they'll say, these aren't commoners that have been lost. That's not we're not looking at loot of commoners. We're looking at loot of adventurers. That will be their first clue that something's not quite right.
Okay. We can elaborate on that point.
Yep.
So I'm in a party, I'm in the tavern in the seaside. How do I find either the Tritons or the Sea Elves to go ahead and do this thing for them?
So I think the idea is we put them in two different areas, right? We basically put the town up there. There are points of interest, and there are two places where parties can go to get jobs. And we let them choose, right?
Yep.
One is the tavern. Yep. That's the one that the Tritons will be at. The other would be at the docks near where the fisheries. That's the one that the Sea Elves will go to, right?
Yep.
And so it's all about which place the players choose. So they're actually going to walk into this by choice. Basically, the setup is you're here, you're looking for work. There are two places where the rumor is you can get work. Where do you want to go?
And where were the Sea Elves?
By the fisheries and by the docks.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they'll be kind of hidden. They'll be cloaked. They'll do the whole, hey, I hear you're looking for work kind of thing, or what have you.
Yep.
Or there'll be somebody there who's basically in the pocket of the Sea Elves. If you're looking for work, I can help you out.
I mean, it's a tavern. There would be fishermen there, or they could just overhear, hey, all these things are happening, and then that would probably lead them to go investigate where they would need to go.
Yeah,
so
one or the other.
That's easy enough to go ahead and plan. Yep. And then worst case scenario, if that never happens, then we can have the Tritons just show up and say, "Hey, we're looking for a party of adventurers." That kind of thing. That's fine. Yep. Okay. So that's kind of their opening level. That's one level's worth of encounters. They have to go solve the mystery, figure out what's going on, take care of the fish.
Little bit of exploration between getting the mission, getting to the location. They can do that by boat, or they can do that by land route, and we can basically detail either way they want to do that.
Okay, so for level 5, for their second level of adventures, we need some way to go ahead and get from they've met the group that they either want to work with or they want to turncoat to, and now we need to get them working towards figuring out what the big bad adventure is. So maybe the bridge here is... Oh, okay, how about this? What if the Warlock... Once they kind of get through that first mission, what if the Warlock attacks them in some level? Show the big bad and then get out, but basically comes with his army of fish and attacks the Triton village or the Elf village. Sure. It could really just kind of be a battle of some sort, and then they can use that as kind of exposition, oh yeah, no, this has been happening. Look how he can turn us against ourselves. He can that kind of thing. Yeah. Is that enough for an entire level, do you think, to go ahead and do that?
I don't think so, but I think it's enough for the opening bit. And then what would happen at that point is the faction that they're in bed with, for lack of a better term, would then say, "We need your help." We scratched your back, we did the thing for you, but we really need your help. This person is killing us, and we need you. And that's where they get brought to the big faction leader, who will play the role of, what are we going to do? We're downtrodden. We need your help, or whatever. They're not going to see this whole army or what have you, but they're going to play that role of, we need assistance here. And we have, if you can help us. That's where they basically divulge the thing. We can't get close because it'll take over us. But
Yep.
We can give you what it takes to do that. So that's when they're given the potions or the magics.
Yep.
And that might be a good way to say, be careful with any spells that kind of eliminate magic areas or whatever. Because if you do that, now you can't breathe underwater. So players will not choose to do that or whatever. Or may not choose to do that for fear of having that kind of done against them, whatever.
So include details and red herrings, ha ha ha.
Yep.
So basically, I'm co-opting kind of an exploration mechanic and saying basically this will go to the leader. We need help. We know you need to go ahead and take this out. And we'll say in this village, this seaside village, there's some sort of like library of sea lore that probably describes the magic item that they're talking about, and so that they know what they're looking for, and they know how this fire genasi is able to go ahead and go under it. And so the part of that quest, once they kind of complete the battle, is to go and learn information. It's dropping a Candlekeep mission in, basically, right? It's like, go to the library, learn the stuff that you're going to need to know for the last mission, right?
And then meet us back here, meet us X spot in X amount of time. We'll have your potions, and we'll get you going. Prepare yourselves.
Yeah.
And in that preparation time, if there's too much quote-unquote lingering, or if the players seem lost, in addition to whatever random encounter, one of those could be the other faction attacks them.
Yep.
To kind of speed it up, spice it up.
Attacking to help speed the quest up. Yep.
And that would give...
So that could be like in a list of like random encounters that, like, maybe you encounter like a, if you're working for the Tritons, you stumble across a group of drunken sea elves in port that know what you did, sort of thing. So, and vice versa. So, yep.
And there might also be just a random drowned zombie attack on the town that they have to deal with while they're in the library.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the warlock knows that forces are building, and he didn't, so he might send something to the town in the hopes of getting them.
Okay, and then basically the last level encounter is the dungeon crawl through the palace itself, and once the artifact is removed and brought to surface, and brought to the warlock will attack, depending on relationship to the faction, maybe they will help.
Yep. Factions, because I think
depends.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe
because once the artifact is destroyed, they'll see that once the artifact is destroyed, they'll feel like they could go ahead and attack the warlock with impunity because they don't have to worry about being like basically mind swiped and taken into a service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As far as the dungeon crawl, that's where I think some of the more sedentary creatures come in, like
oh, totally, yeah.
Sea cucumbers are like that first trap encounter outside. And I think this underwater layer has like an actual building piece of it, but there's almost like walls of coral, and then like you'll go through that piece. There'll be some stuff in there, and then they're almost like a courtyard, and that's where you'll find the bobbit fish.
Or like
worms.
A cucumber garden, and like anything that's like hidden, like totally. Like it's gonna be a very sort of like OSR style dungeon crawl in my head. Like there'll be like a map. It'd be like the map that you find like in anything else. Like it's you have to like crawl through the thing. You have to pick the right thing. There'll be like creature based traps sort of thing. Because I don't think that there probably wouldn't be like traps, but there. Maybe there would be. Who knows? When we get into writing that, who knows?
There might be. I think there might be some. If it's an artifact that the Genasi doesn't physically use themselves, I think that would most definitely be trapped in the traditional sense.
Yep.
And I think it'd be right, because
he has to use it because that's the thing that allows him to go ahead and take control. Right?
But does he have to use it like by being in contact, or does it just have to exist? I guess it just allows him to
live underwater.
If it just has to exist in his lair, that's where I'd say it would definitely be trapped.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. Exists in his lair, not an Actual use item. Oh, so basically it gives him lair actions.
Yes.
And those lair actions, yes.
And
gives
I think that there should be, as they go through this, bodies of past adventurers. And I think the last big fight is he basically raises these bodies of adventurers as drowned zombies.
I like it.
That basically are basically his last protection, or like if they get the thing and they're headed out, he's sending the zombies after them. So it almost creates like a chase scene on the way out.
Yep.
So they can actually decide to fight this guy long term in the lair, but when the zombies start coming, it's time to, pardon the phrase, unask the AO.
Yep, I like it. I like it.
Oh, this is
cool.
Good. I like this.
This is gonna be hot. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna start putting this together, my friend. Anything else that we want to add in here? I think we've got all the creatures that we need, because we've got like 6 or 7 unique creatures that are going to be in here. We've got 3 levels of adventure that are going to be in here. Yep. Anything else that we think we want to go ahead and include in here? Or I think we're ready to go ahead and
I think we're good enough to get the basics of it, but obviously, like
for
many of the things we do, we're probably going to have some guidance as to how you would fit this into the various realms of D&D. If you're playing in Kryn, where would you place this? If you're playing in Oworth, where would you play this? If you're playing in Faerun, where would you place this? Eberron, so on and so forth. So I think we'll have some short, like maybe a short paragraph for each of the areas, like here's a good way to institute it in these areas. If you're doing your homebrew, this is the kind of thing you'd want to look for. So I think that kind of guidance would be in there, because I think that could be very useful for GMs. That way this is something that would be useful pretty close to universally.
All right. So now last thing, I want to look for a book cover.
All right.
Let's see. Go to illustrations. No, those are stupid.
I think pictures and maybe underwater creepy.
Yeah, well, I just typed in Kraken to go ahead and see like what. Let's see. Okay, maybe do this. Underwater creepy. That's pretty hot right there.
So Samara's. I actually like that one with the skull.
This one here?
No, not the skull on the island is nice. If you back up, I like the one where the skull was half buried in the seafloor.
Yep, I like this one a lot. I think that's hot.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Oh, that's kind of cool. The viperfish.
Yep. And obviously we can look for pictures of our various creatures.
You got this one.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of hot.
Yeah, NEL.
Yeah. Oh, this is kind of. It's kind of like underwater forest. What was that? Oh, here we go.
Ooh.
What is that? Like a mastodon skull? Like what is that?
I think so.
What is that?
A loxodon?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's kind of neat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. An underwater loxodon.
No.
Yeah. Artie didn't make it, buddy. Artie didn't make it.
Poor Artie. Yeah.
He had just one stuffy nose too many. For those who are not familiar, you got to look at our back episodes, because
you go watch Babies and Broadswords.
Yep. And one of our class warfares, as a matter of fact, as well.
Correct. Our class warfare with Awfully Queer Heroes. He played the Night and Day Paladin.
Correct.
So yeah. So, all right, plenty of fodder to go ahead and pick from here.
Yep. I really like that skull in the seafloor.
Yep.
I think that
I think that's a book cover, absolutely.
And I think darkened a little bit because it's a little too Caribbean, but a little dark.
That's actually kind of a cool one for the layout of the castle too.
Yeah.
So yep. Boom. All right, my friend.
That is excellent. So folks, before we sign off, I just want to say thanks for tuning in. And I also want to give a big shout out to Ginny D. She doesn't know the folks at Tabletop Journeys. However, call your boys, TTJ. We really appreciate the call to action, and we hope many other content creators, everybody in our podcast family, in our community, also hears this and tries to do something in this vein. I think it would be pretty cool to have so many of us do a thing like this. Over the years, we've done a lot as a community to really show our solidarity, and moments like this, there's a great opportunity. So we appreciate the call to action. Honored to get a chance to put some pen to paper, or fingers to keyboards in this case, to build something that would be a lot of fun to play. And I can tell you, once we get this, once we get a little bit more than the bare bones we've got here, I can guarantee you we'll be doing some play tests on the various encounters and the pieces at Josh's tables, at my tables, my local game store, and some of the conventions I go to throughout the year. So if you hear about it, come play in it.
Well, and just to kind of give everyone perspective on what we're planning on doing with this too. So we are going to go ahead and write this up. I would imagine that you will see it up on DM's Guild or on whatever marketplace we decide, whatever we can put it up there, depending on kind of like where we fall on IP stuff and stuff like that. But yeah, we will put this together and we will put it out there for folks to go ahead and play with. So as always, we'd love to go ahead and hear your feedback. And so in general, we'd love to go ahead and hear your comments here. What do you think of the idea here? What are you doing for Kraken Week? How are you responding to the challenge? So,
GMs out there,
all right, my friend,
throw some water at your party. Throw some water at your party. What was it that Etheridge said? Everybody. Somebody bring me some water. Sorry, I had to.
All right, everybody, we're out. We'll talk to you later. Have a good night.
Good night, all.